into the account of Mr. Chebukati, the chairperson. This is highlighted at page 52 of the document annexed to this statement. You are going to get copies of that document. 6. They gained full entry into the IEBC systems, acquired powers to write their will and drove the people's voice. They created errors in the IEBC core server, as highlighted at page 2 of the document annexed to this statement, that allowed them to turn a democratic process into a function of a formula. A. At 12:38 p.m., they introduced several programs, extra DLL, a version of 2009, to execute stored procedures in the library and the memory of the IEBC database intended to manipulate the data. B. At 12:38 p.m., they loaded a logarithm, which is a formula to create a percentage gap of 11% between our numbers in the presidential race. You see that 11% was a constant. C. At 12:41 p.m., they switched on the read and write option on the IEBC 2017 presidential election database, giving them power to add or delete anything in the IEBC database. At the same time, they set the data correlation organization to off. In doing this, they effectively disabled the system from detecting data, date, and time. D. Again, at 12:41 p.m., they set the auto-update statistics as seen to off for database option IEBC presidential 2017, as highlighted at page 4. In doing this, they made sure that records sent from the field would not be reflecting on the system. At 12:41, also, the database option disabled broker was switched on. This was to disable the database from tracking the events happening in the database. E. At 12:41 p.m., they set the reclusive triggers to off for database IEBC Presidential 2017, highlighted as page 4 of the attached document. Switching those off ensures that the database would not keep record of anything. Then the quoted identifier was switched to off to easily manipulate the database. Then at the same time, they switched the numeric roundabout to off for database IEBC Presidential 2017 to minimum and a fixed figure to avoid rounding off values. F. At 12:41 p.m., they set the concat null yields null to off for IEBC Presidential 2017. This prevents populating the database with null values. G. The auto-update statistics was switched to on to enable updating of values in tandem with their program. H. They switched auto-create statistics to enable their program traverse the database, updating it with their set of desired values to avoid trees. 7. Within just over 12 hours, this attack on our democracy affected the presidential elections in all the 47 counties, both in the live process and the backup. And this counties. Mombasa, number 1, highlighted at page 5. Kwale, page 7. Kilifi, page 8. Tana River, page 9. Lamu, page 10. Taita Taveta, page 11. Garissa, 12. Wajir, 13. Marsabit, 13, 14. Isiolo, 14, 15. Meru, 15, 16. Tharaka Nithi, 16, 17. Embu, 17, 18. Kitui, 18, 19. Machakos, 19, 20. Makueni, 20, 21. Nyandarua, 21, 22. Nyeri, 22, 23. Kirinyaga, 23, 24. Murang'a, 24, 25. Kiambu, 25, 26. Turkana, 26, 27. West Pokot, 27, 28. Samburu, 28, 29. Trans Nzoia, 29, 30. Uasin Gishu, 31, 32. Elgeyo Marakwet, 32, 33. Nandi, 33, 34. Baringo, 34, 35. Laikipia, 35, 36. Nakuru, 36, 37. Narok, 37, 38. Kajiado, 38, 39. Kericho, 39, 40. Bomet, 40. Kakamega, 40, 41, 42. Vihiga, 42, 43. Bungoma, 43, 44. Busia, 44, 45. Siaya, 45, 46. Kisumu, 46, 47. Homa Bay, 47, 48. Migori, 48, 49. Kisii, 49, 50. Nyamira, 50, 51. And Nairobi, 51. This also affected the results of all other elections, including the gubernatorial, senatorial, the women rep, the members of parliament, and members of county assembly. 8. My countrymen, it has always been common knowledge that Uhuru Kenyatta's regime was a fraud. This takes Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto's fraud on our morality to another level. But you can only cheat a people for so long. This information gives Kenyans the trail of the hacker, how he arrogantly walked into the IEBC database, took control of the entire electoral process, manipulated the data, and published facades for a result where we all just wanted to celebrate our democracy. What the IEBC has posted as results on the presidential elections is a complete fraud based on a multiplier that fraudulently gave Uhuru Kenyatta votes that were not cast. The electoral fraud and fabrication of results was massive and extensive to the extent that the results of the 47 counties were manipulated. And as I said, you have uncovered the fraud. Uhuru must go home. The IEBC must be fully accountable. The will of the people is unstoppable. You are the superior one in the clouds. 12. Most profoundly, a Kenyan with excellence career in public service had to die. Christmas Sando's blood has been shed on the altar of the thirst for absolute power. As the officer responsible for elections, Mr. Sando had to access as the super user, had the access as the super user who has all access and can edit other users or alter data. His logins were used to gain access into the IEBC core server and freely alter election data as they pleased as they pleased, forgetting one key element: turning off the logging. 18. The 2017 general election was a fraud. In his words, Uhuru said that he did not need voters to win an election. And this is said in Turkana, he repeated it again in Makueni. The hacking has definitely affected the results of the 2017 general elections. It's a tragedy of monumental proportions and a total disaster. We do not need him as our leader. And I say this on behalf of all those who participated in the rest of other elections: MCAs, members of parliament, women reps, senators, and governors. All those elections are affected by this fraud. God bless you. God bless them.
So what is your response to this?
This is the complete the print out of how they gained access into the IEBC server, how they manipulated, who did it, how it was done, at what time, who they were. And I will invite now our ICT experts to come and explain to you in detail.
As he explains. Yeah. Because of this tragedy, Kenyans must be very deeply disturbed. We want, as your leaders, to call on you to remain calm at the present moment. In fact, I would even go on and say those who are supposed to go to the offices should do so. But there may come a time when we will have to call you to action. But for now, it is important that we be strategic as we delve deep into this matter.
I will explain what happened between the times of 12:37 on the 8th of August to about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Now there are two issues here to deal with: access and privileges. Now in standard operating procedure in IT, when you have a database, you have the super administrator. In this case, they were using Microsoft SQL Server. Once the super administrator is created on first instance, this super user can then now create other roles within the database. All right? Now, Mr. Chris Musando was the super administrator in this case. With his credentials, he was able to give different people the same credentials or lower credentials. But as is highlighted in this document, you'll find that such users did not exist. Only one super user existed in this core server. On the second issue, privileges. Now, you will note, once you get a copy of this document, on page 4, based on the type of access you have as a user, you can carry out certain functions, right? These functions allow you to install algorithms, allows you to install stored procedures. It also allows you to remove logging. One good thing about the SQL environment and the VM, the virtual machine used, is that there are always master logs that you cannot delete. All right? So on page 4, you will see about 6 functions which were mentioned earlier, that were picked. These functions, highlighted one by one, deal with installing stored procedures, changing of date time, recursive triggers, and turning the rounding off of numbers, because an election you cannot have half a vote. Now, the key thing to note in this document on page 2 is if you're a super user in such a system, when you sign in, you have to sign in using a security certificate. You will note that the certificate used was unsigned. For many of you who have Google, if you look at some of the information on that, an unsigned certificate is generally an indication of an attack, plain and simple. Last but not least, you'll find on page 52 that two things happened. One, a user, SA, that is super administrator in MS SQL, SA logged in. 2, the user, Chebukati, logged in. 3, the user at the bottom of page 52, Msando, also logged in. Now, depending on the privilege, if you have that access, depending on the privilege assigned to you by the super administrator, it allows you to generate certain procedures, turn off certain statistics, which explains as to why the so-called stored procedures, the so-called functions, the so-called triggers, which are highlighted here, took effect at specific times. The full document has the master log date time up to the second. So you can be able to track the functional, you can be able to track the functions and the activities that happened from 1237. Thank you very much.